Today, we're digging into something huge, a detailed, open-source blueprint for, well, a whole new kind of civilization. It's an idea born directly out of the massive, tangled challenges we're all facing right now.
So here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we have to really get our heads around the problem, which the document calls a world on a war footing. Then we'll look at the core philosophy, this cool idea that offers a new way forward. After that, we get into the nuts and bolts, the tech and the economics. Then we'll see how this stuff actually works in the real world. And finally, we'll talk about the ultimate goal of the entire system, which is, well, it's pretty profound.
All right, section 1. To really appreciate the solution, you've got to understand the problem. And the problem, as this blueprint lays it out, is what's being called a global polycrisis. And this isn't some far-off prediction. The whole thing kicks off with this really blunt diagnosis of where we are right now. The key word here is polycrisis. It's not just a bunch of separate problems happening at the same time, but this one giant, interconnected mess where each crisis feeds the others. And you can see that mess right here. It's this mosaic of instability. You've got these brutal, long-running wars. You have this massive wave of civil unrest sweeping the globe, showing just how little people trust their institutions anymore. Then there are new, aggressive military strategies popping up, and, as if that wasn't enough, we've got the huge existential question mark of AI, with reports saying the top labs are basically failing on the safety front.
Okay, now this is where the analysis gets really interesting. It connects all these physical world events with this incredibly rare cultural moment. You've got the peak of a super strong solar cycle, which happens to line up with transformative prophecies in several major religions. And at the same time, you have these New Age stories about a great solar flash that frame the whole thing in a positive light. It's like this perfect storm creating this intense psychological pressure for some kind of massive shift.
So, you look at that diagnosis, and what do? Well, that brings us to Section 2, the Protopian Gambit. The blueprint says we need a whole new philosophy. We have to stop chasing these old, tired ideas of perfection and try something completely different.
And that something different is centered on this idea of protopia. It's a simple but powerful concept. It basically says, forget about trying to build a perfect, static utopia. That never works. Instead, let's just focus on the process. Let's commit to making today a little bit better than yesterday.
This really nails the difference, doesn't it? Utopia is a destination, an endpoint. And if you look at history, trying to force a perfect endpoint on people, well, it usually ends badly. Protopia isn't a place you're trying to get to, it's a direction you're moving in. It's always changing, always improving, always iterating.
So here's the gambit, the big strategic move. It's deciding to look at this whole polycrisis thing not as the end of the world, but as a giant mirror showing us all the cracks in our current systems. It's seeing the crisis as our mandate, our permission slip, to finally stop trying to patch the old thing up and start designing something new from the ground up.
Okay, that brings us to Section 3, the sovereignty stack. So if protopia is the philosophy, what are the actual tools? How do you turn that idea into a real working system? Well, it all starts with a new digital foundation. It's about a massive shift away from our current model, Web 2, surveillance capitalism, where giant companies own our data and use it to sell us stuff. The move is towards a sovereign commons model, and the difference is night and day. In this new model, you own your data. The goal isn't to make a profit off you, it's to improve your well-being. And instead of secret corporate algorithms running the show, you get transparent governance run by the community. It completely flips the power dynamic.
Now, you pair that digital shift with a new kind of economy, the braided economy. It's clever because it doesn't try to get rid of the traditional market we already have. Instead, it weaves it together with what it calls a reciprocity economy. This is a whole new layer that finally puts a real value on all the essential work that capitalism just ignores. Caring for a relative, cleaning up a park, mentoring someone. It does this with a unit called the C Hour, and its value is backed by a real community-owned fund.
So, Section 4, from code to community. This is where the rubber meets the road. All this cool tech and economic theory is great, but what does it actually look like in the real world?
One of the clearest examples is in healthcare. There's a plan for a clinical trial in Queensland, Australia, focusing on dementia care. It would use the system's Aura, think of it as a personal digital twin, as an actual medical device. The whole point is to create deeply personalized care that dramatically improves life for both the person with dementia and their caregiver.
But it's not all high-tech medical stuff.
The same blueprint can be scaled right down to the local grassroots level. There are plans to use it to develop things like a community sports hub or a local film festival, all designed to just, bring people together and strengthen the bonds of a community.
And honestly, the vision is just massive. The documentation lays out how this same core framework can be applied to, well, almost everything. Smart homes, automated farming, inside your house, disaster response, and even massive projects like building underground cities or developing commercial space travel.
So that leads us to the final and maybe most important section, an engine for purpose. After all of that, the tech, the economics, the applications, what's the real point? What is this whole giant interconnected system actually trying to build?
At the very, very heart of it all, this blueprint is designed to be an engine for purpose. It's a direct shot at tackling what so many of us feel, that modern life can sometimes feel a bit aimless. It's about solving that crisis of meaning.
And here's how it does it, which I think is just brilliant. It's basically a choose-your-own adventure for civilization. It takes a goal so huge you can't even imagine it, like building a new city, and breaks it down into tiny 5-minute tasks. Then an AI acts like a magic compass, looks at your personal data, your skills, your passions, and suggests the tiny tasks that would be most meaningful for you personally. It makes contributing to something epic feel manageable, personal, and actually fun.
So what's the end game? The whole point is to create a new, shared story, what the document calls a new monomyth, that's big enough for everyone to see themselves in. A story that points all of us toward one big goal: joyful, responsible abundance. It's a future where we don't just measure success by how much stuff we have, but by our well-being, our sense of contribution, and our ability to thrive together.
Which leaves us with this one last thought to chew on. In our world of incredible, almost magical technology, AI, blockchain, you name it, is it possible that the most powerful technology we could ever create is just a really, really good story? One that's big enough for all of us to live inside?